MAME phase.
If you've been following this channel for a while, you'll probably know I like to cover releases of new games, especially for the 8-bit micros, and that's the case today, where I'll be looking at a game called Ringo. Now, this is a recent release for the ZX Spectrum from Retro Souls, and it's an interesting one to me for a number of reasons. Now, let's just get the game loaded up, so yeah, take loading noises, but they'll pass shortly. Here we go, let's speed through that a little bit. Go. So it's usually about a 6-minute load, but we're turboing through that, so it shouldn't take 6 minutes. But nice little loading screen here. Good use of colour, although not the best use of colour you're going to see. We'll get to that in a second. So, we're almost there. Oh, there we go. So I did skip a little bit of music after we loaded because I was in turbo mode, but you can hear something now. So, maybe you're already seeing something about this, the very blocky looking graphics, and that is kind of what makes this one special. It's the look they've gone for, and for good reason. We'll get onto that again shortly, but you can see the title screen here. It's just disable the UI controls with scroll lock. Now, if you haven't played a Spectrum game before, you'll know this is not the typical Spectrum look. Spectrum look is usually 2 colours every 8x8 pixels. And this game, if you look closely, has 4 colours in every 8x8 pixel block. And that is really what the magic is here. The developers have used very clever timing techniques to develop a game where they change the attribute table on the Spectrum, which is where the colour information is stored, every, say, four scan lines. And the only way you can do that is if you know the exact timing of everything and program your game around it. So what you're actually seeing here is a very, very clever technical achievement. So it's not easy to know the timing of everything. Spectrum is quite difficult. I mean, even if you know all your Z80 timings, the memory accessors have various delays based on what's going on, and even MAME has only recently got that correct thanks to the work of Holub over the last year. So this game running in MAME is quite an achievement itself, and it's a really good game. If you've been watching me play so far, you'll probably recognise the gameplay if you're familiar with various arcade games. And that's because, yes, it's very much Solmon's Key, isn't it? If you've ever played Solmon's Key, you will recognise what you're seeing on the screen. You make blocks, use your little wizardy character to make blocks, you climb on those blocks, you can destroy other blocks, and you have to get a key and then get to the exit. Now, Solmon's Key itself in original form doesn't scroll, so that's a bit different in this version, but again, with this blocky style, that's really what you have to do. To me, this is fascinating, because this is really pushing the Spectrum to its limits, and it's not just this fancy graphical trick. If you look at how much is going on, you've got all these things moving in the background. It's a very, very busy game, and you know, if you're using all these tricks, usually you're not left with much time to actually program your game, so you tend to get quite limited games compared to some games where they've got more free CPU time to be pushing things around. So the fact they've managed to code this and still had time to create a really good game around it, that just fascinates me. Not the first time Retro Souls have used a similar technique. I think in terms of the actual game itself that's running using this technique, this is easily the most impressive one I've seen. It does make me wonder though, had this game been released back in the day, how well would it have been received? If you think back to the good old computer wars of the day, you know that when a game was really blocky on the Amstrad CPT using the Mode 0 mode, where low resolution mode, it attracted a fair bit of criticism, despite looking much better than the Spectrum. People just go, oh, the CPC is just really blocky graphics and everything else. So, despite this being a really nice technique, I actually have a feeling that Spectrum magazines back in the day might have criticised it unfairly, just for that reason alone. How do you get up there to that key? Probably going to tell me we just have to go the long way round. I died. Because, yeah, it's a unique look. It's obviously not a technique that was really used back in the day because, well, people did understand that they could do climbing tricks, but they never really sat down and wrote a whole game using them. So I'm missing something here. That's exactly what we got here. We've got an entire game coded using such techniques. And that is amazing. Something I didn't think would ever be possible. Something I didn't think anybody would be doing to this degree. This smooth, this fluid. This game is super responsive. And I've lost my words. Some doors will never open. You can see just how well it plays just from watching me play it. But where's the key? Now, obviously, this video is going to show a bit more than this, because I want to show the games this was influenced by. As I said, Solomon's Key is clearly the big influence here. And we'll get to, say, Solomon's Key in a bit, so I want to play a bit more of this first. See how far I can get, legitimately. And the levels do get fancier as you go along in terms of the graphical effects. So it would be nice to get a little bit further as well and demonstrate some of the even fancier techniques. So, down here. That door's, I think that's what it means, some doors will never open. That door is probably never going to open. One over here is, yeah, there we go. So, we're going, where are we going? Oh. Didn't want to die there, did I? We can duck to avoid getting touched by enemies, and also you need to duck to face certain platforms. You need to go up and over them. Now, I've never really played this game this far so far. I've briefly had a look at it and watched a few other people play it, but I didn't want to spoil it before my first playthrough, or attempt to play it, let's say. So here we go, we have a snowy thing now. So again, they've not just stuck to one theme, they've gone and implemented a few different ones. So we've gone from the original one to clearly a more wintry look. Get down here, can't we? Don't touch that. Now, I don't know if you have unlimited lives. It would seem like it, which is probably it. Let's get out of there. Let's get up here. Where are we going now? Can't smash through any of the ice ones now. These are just walls. There's like. You see, you've even got the snow effect going on in this one. So it's rather fancy, isn't it? I think I have to jump up there with that behind me. Probably. No, did I get? I must have got through the door. I thought I died. Anything hidden? I think there are hidden stars in the level, because I got one on an earlier level, so I think they're potentially behind blocks that are already there, so it sometimes makes sense, I think, to push the existing blocks, although I obviously don't know where any of them are hidden at the moment. Might not be any in this level. Well, I could be wrong in that assertion. Although, that's where I started, isn't it? There we go, I think. But there's the key, hidden right here. Notice it seems to have stopped giving me little tutorials now we've reached this ice section. Yeah, this game is available on the Retro Souls website. It's a pay what you want game, so you can, if you feel like it, choose to pay nothing. But for the quality of this game, I think it's absolutely worth throwing something the developer's way. It's very rare you see something of this quality. Wait a little bit longer. Don't want to spend too long on it. We're already 12 levels in. Quite an achievement. Maybe not, because you know you do have infinite lives. I have died a lot, but you can set your own goals. You can work out how much challenge you would like, just based on how good you think you might be at the game, I'm sure. So this wasn't the start. See, it's getting a bit trickier. Maybe I'm just trying to rush things though. Take your time, it's probably easier. Shame there's not a timer displayed, because I think it'd be a good speedrun game actually if somebody wanted to, challenge their own times, but you can always get a stopwatch out. I mean, most of these old games didn't actually have in-game timers, did they? So I don't think it's a critical thing that's missing here. She was somewhere down here, wasn't there? Where's the exit? I'm going to find the exit. Where is it hidden? Oh, I just missed it. In plain sight somewhere. I don't want to push you that way, I want to go this way. And do a leap over you. And, must be not there. Off at the start. Yes, at the start. There we go. That level took a little while. So let's see where to go next. There you see, that's one of those hidden stars I was talking about. I've got 2 so far. I have no idea how many are in the game. Now, yeah, sometimes you'll fall into traps like that where maybe you didn't know there was an enemy down there, although, again, you'll learn, and I could have taken the more cautious approach to get down there and possibly seen the end. There you go. So you can look up and you can look down when you're ducking, like any good game. Lets you have a look around. There's a door there. I don't want to really block the door though, do I? Because I might want to use that door and not hide it. Come on. Oh, there's another door here, so this is one of those levels where one of the doors isn't going to work, is it? This one doesn't work. So, here's the door I want, the one up here. It's not even that one. Oh, where is the correct door? Let's see what the door was. But you can see how smooth it scrolls too. I think horizontally it's probably in chunks of 4, but vertically it seems smoother. And I've not really analysed that yet, but it is potentially possible for them to use their little trick in a way that could give smooth vertical scrolling with the effect. It's just such a Such a good looking game, if you ask me. Maybe it looks more like you're playing some sort of handheld game, with a Gameboy colour type game on your Spectrum. I guess with the lower resolution. This technique definitely has potential. It's just obviously very difficult to actually code a game around it. There's the key, but I died again. I'd imagine you'd have to plan a lot of the game out on paper, you know, knowing the exact timings of every opcode and, you know, when the video RAM access is going to interfere. And eventually come up with a game. So it's not something I ever tried to do myself. Imagine it's very, very time consuming. Which again is probably why we didn't see this type of thing back in the day. Going to a full game. It was kind of rushed out back then. Maybe people didn't have such a clear understanding or were too afraid to use the techniques too much, because the other thing with the Spectrum is the video timing differs between different models. So it's very easy to write code that wouldn't work on a certain Spectrum. And I think developers would have rather avoided that. A lot of these 8-bit platforms had similar problems. I got the key, but no. You'd have to do a lot of testing to make sure you weren't, you know, doing something that didn't work on a different system. Because the slightest thing being off with the timing would completely destroy the video output here. It requires that level of precision. Which is why it's, you know, really good that MAME emulates it these days, thanks to Holub and the like, because just a year ago I think I did some Spectrum streams where I had to put the disclaimer that the Spectrum emulation was in MAME was kind of alright, but had its share of issues. But now, apart from, I think, these plus 3 disc emulation, I can confidently say the Spectrum emulation in MAME is very good indeed. It runs these games with these visual tricks, not just this one but many of the others, and it does a really good job of them. I'm thoroughly impressed by the state of the Spectrum emulation in MAME these days. The star. What was the floor? More looking for keys and ways out of here. So let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Where is this key? Okay, no. I got. Try going the other way this time. Might loop, so this might be exactly where I was before. I think it's the same area, isn't it? Oh, the keys at this is different. Similar but different. If you look at the background, there's even things scrolling at different speeds, so there's sort of a whole parallax type thing going on in places. And again, that's not something that's easy to implement. It's something that requires a lot of work and a lot of planning. Get that. Let's not spite ourselves. I'm not sure why I did that, I just jumped straight into the end. Shall we play a little longer? We're almost 20 minutes on this video already, and still want to just keep playing. But I shouldn't, because I did say the video was going to have a look at some other games too. You know, some of the games that influenced this, some of the other takes on Solmon's Key, and Solmon's Key itself on a number of platforms. Where the start was. Where is the correct exit on the stage? Where is the correct exit on the stage? That is a good question. Hidden somewhere. Anyway, I think, yeah, we'll call that one, call this one here for now. And I think now we'll start to look at some of the other games. Now, for the second game, I'm going to go to the most obvious influence, which is the original version of Solomon's Key. This is an arcade game. It runs in MAME. It's ran in MAME for a long time. There was a period in MAME where it had a few problems because there's a late protection check in the game that would black out the screen if it failed. But these days, Solomon's Key plays absolutely fine in MAME. Now, the US version, which is this version with the English title, seems a bit less common. But gameplay-wise, I believe it to be identical. I could be wrong, but I don't think there's any major changes in how the two versions of the game play. So, shall we coin this one up? And you'll immediately see it is pretty much the same concept. You walk along, you destroy the blocks, you make new blocks, you can jump. It's one of those odd games where up is jump, though. That is something to keep in mind. Not many arcade games use up for jump. This one does. See, I've got the key, and now I can go to the exit. And you avoid the patrolling enemies. You can jump up at the blocks to bash them with your head and break them that way, just like you can in Ringo. Now, yeah, there's a bit more going on. There's a few more items, but ultimately, the core gameplay is that you just saw earlier. Oops. I'm going to get the fairy and failing. So let's actually exit. Instead, I've got the fairy. Let's actually exit the stage. Now, this obviously doesn't scroll because everything's a bit on one screen. And maybe that makes it a little bit easier to plan. It's a little less maze-like as a result. I mean, you saw a lot of the time in Ringo I was walking around trying to find out where I wanted to go, where the key was. Here it's more obvious, but still block things with the blocks you're building. And if we can now get back up where we want to be, the key, and collect it. There's an item there that blocked me from producing the block. Now the bonus does decrease as you take your time. So yeah, maybe there's a little bit more in terms of the actual game mechanics here with the score and everything else. But again, I don't think that's a negative you can hold against the Spectrum Ringo game, because core gameplay is what attracts you to the game, and that still holds up in both titles. Now this does have, again, more variety in the enemy types. Got these ones that rotate, move around platforms. But I imagine a fair bit that is going to come down to, again, the way the Spectrum game to have, fixed known times for everything that's happening, just to make sure that the screen could update and the mid-screen changes would take place. So it's much harder to code something when you've got to know exactly how long everything takes. The arcade, they didn't have to worry about that, just as long as there was enough frame time to avoid horrific slowdowns. And yes, this game does run on a Z80 processor. It is technically an 8-bit game, although it looks really, really good. It's one of my one of those arcade games that never quite feels like an arcade game. I think because I associate it more with playing it on home systems. You can't complain about the gameplay on offer. I think it's one of Tecmo's best games, in fact. So that may be a controversial statement. Let's just get rid of that one. Oh. I'm not especially good at it, though, it would appear. Well, I'd say out of practice. Out of practice, that's my excuse. I can definitely get further than this. If I do that though. Not if I do that. Let's give it another credit. Yeah, I think this game was popular on the home computers. Did get ports to quite a few of them. It's definitely a game I remember from growing up. Just puzzle platformer. In fact, I think it's one of the earliest puzzle platformers I can remember playing. I'm sure there were others, but definitely have early memories of this one. Let's try. Put you that way. Yes, that's better. Let's get some blocks. This whole concept of building and destroying blocks is really what defines these games. Is the the unique hook they have, where if you've got that mechanic, you can say, yeah, it's a Solomon's key clone. So here we go, bonus room. Cast a spell on the key at 3/3. Sure, there's some secret it's telling you there. This is 3/3. Assuming cast a spell means use the fire button. Didn't see that coming. Should really pay attention. I don't know. What am I doing now? Nope, can't build, can't build. Not what I was trying to do. Nope. Is that not casting the spell? I don't know what the clue was all about then. I'm sure it should have been more obvious. I thought that would just be use the fire button on the key, but maybe it wasn't. That was silly. Let's try again. We're going to destroy my platforms. Oh, avoid. Well, that's life, and then I think I'll move on to something else. I'm not sure what yet, though. Now, the doors will stay open when you die, it appears. So a bit of a difference with Ringo that made you restart the level. Either way, it is game over. I'm sure you get the idea. I'm sure you can see how this game, no doubt, influenced Ringo that we started the video off with. I say a Tecmo classic, a really good arcade game. I've not played it properly for a while, so definitely out of practice. And there's all sorts of little secrets in it. And yeah, if you enjoy Ringo on the Spectrum, then definitely check this one out. If you enjoy this one, definitely check that Ringo game on the Spectrum, because, say, the gameplay on offer is similar, but also different enough that they're both worth playing, and that Spectrum one is a technical marvel. Anyway, shall we have a look at another game? The next game I want to look at is Spherical for the Amstrad CPC. Now, I'm going to load a disc version of this, rather than the cassette version, so no annoying cassette noises this time. The cassette version does also run in MAME. There is an original disc version which had weak sectors, which appears to not load. But this version, a Spanish release, which is from an original disc, but I think probably a re-release, does appear to load just fine. So that is the version I'm using. The Amstrad software lists could still do with a bit of cleaning up, to say the least, and maybe some dumps replacing. And the Amstrad emulation itself does need a fair bit of work. Anyway, here we are at the main menu. I've put it in keyboard mode. Make sure the UI controls are disabled, and here we go. So as you can see, very similar visually. It's still creating platforms, everything else, but there is no key. Now, the difference here comes down to what you have to do. There's the ball in the top left corner there, and that rolls around once the counter reaches 0. And you've got to try and get that to the goal. So it's got the same core idea of creating these platforms, the same sort of enemy movements moving around, but the actual way it plays is very different. And I like that. They've taken a concept, but they've also made it their own. And this was Rainbow Arts. And this is a game from back in the day. This isn't a modern game, as we saw a minute ago. This is a genuine back in the day release. How do we get back up there? Maybe we don't. You see, it's a puzzle game, and I appear to have failed already, I believe, because I blocked the ball up there. I did not want to. So, yes, let's go into the high score table as a failure. So we'll give that another try. But yes, these are things you have to be aware of. So, what you should be doing is clearly not blocking it up there, but maybe going around here, building a path down here. Now, we don't want the ghost to interfere, so we'll put a block there. Actually, no, let's put the block there. Now, this will give us just enough time, I believe, to... Well, actually, no, we've got plenty of time, because the ball, which you can now see rolling, is trapped there. Obviously, the game is called Spherical, because I'm guessing that's a sphere. You can just see it, the 2D representation of it. And here we go. Now, some of these levels do require very fast thinking and fast reactions, good timing, good character placement, because it's very precise. You have to stand in exactly the right place, and you have to do it quickly. So, luckily, ghosts and things don't instantly kill you; they just drain your health. But that's... I mean, you don't want to let your health drain too quickly for too long, because I think it... I don't think it recharges. We'll see, though. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I played this one, too. But I didn't own this one back in the day. This is one I discovered more recently. There we go. The ball got in, and did my health recharge? I'm not sure. So what we're going to do now... Well, I think we're going to go up there quickly and plug that gap. If you see, if the ball was to get trapped in that little crevice there, it's not going to get out. So we need to at least plug that hole. No. Yes, that's not how you do this, is it? I created them and then I failed. So yeah, I failed this level. I think it did say there was a restart level key, but I can't remember what it was. So I'm going to have to just kill myself off the manual way. This will be game over. This might send me back to the start. Yeah, game over. So I made a bit of a mess of that one. Where's the thing that... it only shows you the keys on startup, doesn't it? Anyway, there are passwords. You're good enough. But let's try and get a bit further without depending on the password. So... No. Well, suppose... might be a legitimate alternate way to solve this level. So if we do that, and do that. Now, you can't bash the blocks with your head in this one, it seems. You can still get rid of them if they're up there. So, yeah, this is the quicker way to do this level, but I'm not getting so many bonuses. Now, let's try and not fail this level this time. The controls do feel a little laggy, which is why I keep filling in things I've made, because I don't think it's responded and then it responds twice. There we go. That's at least got that down to there. Now we've got not as much time as I'd like. Let's block that off though over there. So I've got enough time to collect this and build a little path for it to get to the exit. There we go. Now this can fall down there. You can see how they've put a fresh twist on. It's the same basic game. So this case, I think we just have to rush along as quickly as we can and not get killed by this thing. And then build a path before it starts rolling. So you see the timer counting down there. It's not quite that simple, is it? Because the exit is there. But we'll let it make one little run across back and forth, so buys us a bit of time. Now fall down here. I can make a path here. Finds that much time. Nope. Oh dear. And I have messed it up. Again, the controls are unfortunately a bit laggy, as I said, which doesn't help. But the gameplay is solid. If you get used to where you need to stand, it's a solid game to play. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to reach anywhere that gave me a password. So I'll be back at the start if I play it again. Do you want to see the first level again? Possibly not. So I think we'll call Spherical there. Just a brief look at it. But if you like the other two games and you can get used to the controls, this is definitely another one worth checking out. And it's got some really nice graphics as well. It is the Mode 0, the CPC Mode 0, which is the one I said got a lot of criticism in magazines because it's blocky and people go, we don't want blocky graphics. But I think they actually hold up really well these days, and it's far better than the 4-colour mode and bad specky ports. So yeah, this one is, again, seems like a good game. So let's move on. For the next game in this video, I'm going to look at a Korean arcade game. Now this is one I actually played back in Italy. It's Tang, and it's from the year 2000, developed by ESD, excellent soft design. And yeah, it's another one that is very much clearly influenced by Solmon's Key, although it does have its own unique twists. It's wise to pay attention to the how to play screen, even though it may seem obvious if you played Solmon's Key, but there are a few unique twists, I'd say, including this: you have to hold down and fire to fire bolts, and that will come in handy. So don't forget that, otherwise you may not get very far. Now, the game does differ in that instead of just collecting a key, you've got to collect multiple of these symbols, these sort of diamond things around the level, before the exit appears. So, planning the route around to collect those is important. Now, it doesn't show you where the exit is until the exit appears. So, some flying knowledge does help, unlike Solmon's Key where you can always see the exit. But it's never too far away. As long as you're careful, you can usually build a safe path to it, because the movement in this one is quite quick, and the building and destroying the blocks is quite quick, and that works exactly like Solmon's Key. You can jump to smash things, and they clearly played Solmon's Key and they thought, we want our own version of that. Now the enemies keep respawning, they will destroy the blocks they hit, and can actually strategically do things like that to get rid of. Although not that. Don't do that. That wasn't clever. You can block them off just to have a block destroyed, rather than have them chase you. Get down there quickly. Go. But yeah, I was kind of impressed by this one when I played it back in the arcades. And that's not something I'll often say about these video games, but they've done a decent job here. I mean, I don't think it's really as good as the original Solmon's Key. It does miss some of the finer details of that game and some of the more puzzle-like elements, but it still implements the basic concept rather well. Interestingly, it got a Game Boy Advance port, which, when I found out, I was very surprised. You don't expect a random Korean arcade game that very few people have ever heard of to be ported to a well-known handheld, but it got a port, and when I was told, it's not a terrible port. I think I did even play it on stream once. I can't remember what I didn't like about it. Maybe it had to scroll to keep everything on the screen, which, unless the game is designed for it, does tend to get in the way. I mean, it didn't get in the way in Ringo because the game was designed to be more maze-like. I think if this had scrolling, it might be a bit less playable. So, I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe I should have decided to look at the Game Boy Advance game again. So, let's have a look at the arcade. Stage 1-5 gets 6 of them. Some points. Now, blocking off enemies is a good strategy. So, again, it isn't Solomon's Key really, although a lot more of the enemies in this will destroy your blocks immediately. Which makes it a bit trickier. So a lot of Solomon's Key enemies get blocked by the blocks rather than destroy them instantly. Here, right from off the off, most of them just destroy your blocks if they touch them. Now, I've warned you, got a boss with a snowman here, I think. It's Christmas season, so why not? Now, this is where you really need to know about the ability to fire, because the only way you can damage bosses, I believe, is if you fire your bolts at them. Don't think you can damage them other ways. Now, why it's not just a third button for fire, I'm not so sure. But I guess they just wanted 2 button cabinets. Also, after playing Solomon's Key, I keep trying to use up for jump, because in Solomon's Key, up is jump, and you kind of get used to it. Here we go. Let's fire some bolts at this thing. That didn't go my way. Change characters. I think you are limited on fire, so you do have to be careful. I thought maybe you were limited, but doesn't seem like it. That seems to be a very rapid fire rate. Maybe it's in the other stages you're limited. I seem to remember being a limit on the plate and fire at some point in the game. Maybe it's in the regular stages you have a limit to number of bolts. Because here, you can just fire as many as you want from the bosses. You notice the power meter isn't going down. The there. There we go. Now that is a bit odd, because I'm sure in regular levels your power does go down when you use that. We'll just check that in a moment. Let's see, P3, Firebolt, yeah, P2. So, I suppose, in terms of the game mechanics, it's a little bit of a hacky workaround to having to use so many bolts to destroy the boss. It doesn't really make that clear, but if you're on a boss, yeah, you have infinite shots, as opposed to regular levels where you don't. That is kind of the gameplay hole you sort of come to expect in this type of Korean game. Not always fully thought out, but once you know that's how it works, then it's forgivable. I think it would have been better if it just displayed an infinite symbol next to the bolts when you're on a boss, just so you know. It didn't. And again, these things were usually made on the cheap quickly, and having a boss is probably better than not having a boss, so it all works out. If you forget that you can fire at all, say it's not really obvious because it is on, down, and fire. If you don't know that, you just get stuck on a boss. Again, I should do know that. It's fine. I'd argue that arcades should always be super obvious. And you'd be right. Especially as I doubt we have some kind of instruction panel on this, on the cabinet, because these are usually just generic conversions, generic converted cabinets. They were probably running some other sort of bootleg game before they were running this. And, those tend not to bother with dedicated So I'll play through this credit and then we'll probably have a look at another game, because we've already been going quite a while now. I doubt the developers of Ringo actually played this one. Again, this is more a case of this was also influenced by Solmon's Key, rather than this was probably an influence on the first game we looked at. Unless they did, maybe they grew up with Game Boy Advances and we played this one, but yeah, Tang from ESD. Clearly another Solmon's Key influence game. I'd say it does look and play like you'd expect a Korean game from the early 2000s to play. If you want a better ESD game, I think I mentioned, did I mention it? Play SWAT Police, because that one is hilarious. It's a sort of crosshair shooter thing with assets stolen from everywhere you can imagine. This one, I think the art is original. Anyway, I believe we will move on to another game now. So for our next game, we're going to move to the PC Engine, and a game that is all but Solmon's Key in name. This is Zipang, and I don't really know why this one wasn't called Solmon's Key. If you look at the credits that will appear shortly, Tecmo are credited, so there is acknowledgement this is Solmon's Key right there. It's not just some rip-off, but Packing Video, who released this, decided to call it Zipang instead. Maybe they thought that would appeal more to their audience. Maybe it's some strange way around a legal agreement. I don't know, you hear all sorts of things like that. Yeah, you see that. Tecmo 1986 reprogrammed 1990 Packing Video. And all sorts of other names. So, yeah. You see, the graphics have changed a bit. The theme has changed a bit. You will quickly see this is clearly just Solmon's Key for the PC Engine with a different name. And a bit of extra presentation, I guess you could say. There we go. The stone blocks in this case you can break rather than the gold blocks, which are the solid ones. Destroy the platform with the enemy on it. Guys. Top block was equivalent to the key, and onto the exit. And there we go. So a little bit of extra presentation. Can actually get in the way a little bit. Die. So if you lure enemies onto the platform, and then get rid of those platforms and take out the names. As you can see, the level design are different. These aren't the standard Solmon's Key levels. But if you've played Solmon's Key, and you wanted some extra levels, slightly change mechanics, it's worth playing. More like sort of a sequel of sorts. There we go. Not careful. That was even less careful. Again, don't rush. Rushing gets you nowhere in the end. Far better rating. Again, like Solomon's Key, the door does stay open. Actually, the line drips over the platforms there. The platforms will slow it down. Very attractive looking effect. Floats around. Behaviour, it will destroy blocks if it hits them. Okay. Oh, I must have touched it. What password is that? Yeah, you better write that down. Take a photo. I don't know. Back to the start from though. Oh no, is it remember the password? It's remember the password. There we go. That's actually quite handy. Remembering the last password saves you entering it. Good design. Got to get the 2 again after continuing. It would have been very silly if I can't continue, isn't it? The hit detection is quite strict, it would seem. So it's all gone before you try and get on that button. Yeah, maybe I should have done that last time. All sorts of hidden treasures. Can we jump over this thing? Yeah, we can. So I should do something like that. I made it look more difficult than it was the first time. These are very typical Solmon's key enemies, aren't they? Moving around platforms like this. In fact, this is the level I recognise from Solmon's key. But yeah, you get the idea. I don't think I need to play more of this one. Shall I have a look if there's anything else? So for the next game, which I think will be the final game, let's have another look at a case where Tecmo released Solomon's Key with a different name. We're going to look at Monster Rancher Explorer on the Game Boy Color. Now, Monster Rancher is a pretty well-known series of games, and to me it seems very strange for there to be a reskin of Solomon's Key effectively released as Monster Rancher. But that is exactly what happened, and this is that game. It's got a bit more story than Solomon's Key, as you'd expect for a home release, really. And the title from Monster Rancher Explorer. Just skipping over a few things, let's go new game. Released in the year 2000, much like the Tang Korean game we just looked at. And so here we go. A bit of story about climbing the tower. Rather nice graphics, but when I get on playing the game, then you've got a few bits of speech to go through. Yes, we are definitely ready. Oh, there we go. This is our tower. This is what we've got to climb. Open the gates. There we go. Whoa. Yeah, so it's a put down version. Again, get the key. Build your path. Door. Try the next stage. Yes, we will try the next stage. We're climbing this tower, as you can see from the diagram there. I don't know how your magic managing plates are going to create. Stone blocks of previous games were quite impressive. Oh, can't jump that one. There we go. It's not bad for a Gameboy Color game in terms of visuals. Obviously, it's not doing anything too special. It is a simple platform game. Expect the enemies are just the same. I think they got the visuals down really well, actually. And, one thing that has improved over the last year or so in MAME is the Game Boy Color sound, or the Game Boy in general, the sound emulation. It was far less ambiguous than it was when I was streaming it some time back. I'm glad, because it just sounded absolutely atrocious at the point. Now it's better. I don't think it's perfect, but I definitely don't feel like my ears are burning while listening to music anymore. So if you've not used Game Boy or Game Boy Color in MAME for a while, compatibility is alright. Not everything runs, but at least it does sound pretty good now. There's definitely room for somebody to step in and improve, especially the overall timing. I think some of the more recent software that's been added, especially fancy high colour modes, requires more exact timing. And so, you know, it probably needs to work much along the same lines as those we saw on the Spectrum from somebody who knows the system pretty well and wants to make the emulation better. Therefore, pretty good key. Concentration, yes. Concentration is the key. Well, the key is the key, but concentration is also important. All the way down there, go away. Hold on. I see, I can't build blocks where those bats are interesting. But again, it's got a few differences. Do I want to do that? I don't know. Is that going to kill me? No, it's not. And there we go. There were other games in the Solomon's Key series. In fact, there was an official Solomon's Key 2 on the NES, which I think was released as Fire and Ice in some territories. I was tempted to look at it, but I don't know, I've never really been the biggest fan of that one. However, if you want to look at those, then you can. The Master System got a version 2, a pretty good port. There's definitely Solomon's Key in many places. Spectrum, again if you want an 8-bit version, Amstrad CPC, that's an official 8-bit version of Solomon's Key. It was a popular game, and so you're going to find there were a lot of ports of it. But this one, say this stands out because, again, they've applied a better known IP to basically a puzzle game from back in the day. It's worth checking out for its own merits. Anyway, I think that is it. I hope you've enjoyed looking at Ringo, which is that very, very good Spectrum game from Retro Souls that was just released. And so if you like that one, go over to their website and buy it. And also, I hope you've enjoyed seeing some of the games that possibly influenced it, or Solomon's Key definitely did, and games that have been influenced by Solomon's Key, or ports of Solomon's Key, reskins of Solomon's Key, and all sorts of related games. it's a series worth checking out. If you've not played Solomon's Key or anything related to it, and you like sort of your platform puzzle games, definitely check out that. Check out the new game Ringo, and check out some of these other versions, because there's unique levels in each of them, and I guess that's what makes a platform puzzle game, is the levels. So they're all worth checking out on their own merits. Anyway, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope to catch you next time.